You are on the rant couch, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus pages want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Guistino, who says, rant about Ben Saint slowly turning into a hardcore socialist. He even dyed his hair pink recently, for Christ's sakes. I love Ben and all, but dude is clearly salty that he's living with a bunch of dudes and has no money. He refuses to work and wants to have his cake and eat it too, with him wanting Yang elected. Don't you fucking talk shit about Yang. The freedom dividend is supposed to encourage people to work more, according to Yang himself, and lazy people like Ben will just take advantage of it. Just wondering how Ben even got to this point. Dude had a degree in physics, if I remember correctly. Anyways, hope you can answer this without it being too awkward. Again, not shitting on Ben completely. It's just like when you see your loser friend being a loser, you call them out because you care about them, kind of thing. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to go out here and be like, oh, socialism is like an incorrect and bad ideology. There's a lot of good points to socialism. I don't think it's like an out and out poor way of doing things. It's just not my preferred one. I don't think it's as good as capitalism, even though I think that capitalism as it is functioning right now is not good. I think that we need to make a lot of changes to it. And I agree with a lot of Yang's changes to it. I think that what Yang wants to do with his idea of human capitalism is exactly what capitalism needs to evolve. But, you know, I think Ben kind of rides the line between that. I don't think he's, like, necessarily as far gone as he makes it seem for the memes. And you have to also understand that Ben is obsessed with branding and marketing in a different way from a lot of people. Ben is not interested in conventional branding and marketing. He is interested in finding his own ways that work for him to create his character, his persona, and to have an audience and a following based around it. And so he takes very unique approaches. Like, for instance, when he was doing his webcomic, he experimented with all these different ways of getting it more popular. First of all, when he created his Twitter, he just mass followed people to see who would follow back, because a lot of people will do that. And, you know, anybody who he thought was at all interesting, he engaged with their content so that they would engage with his. This is a very traditional way of growing on the internet, particularly back in the blogging days. And it still works on Twitter to some extent. So, you know, that is a marketing ploy, even if there is some sincerity in who he is actually going to respond to, who he's going to follow. It's not baseless, you know, it's not a mindless following spree, but it is a marketing gimmick, you know. He, you know, bought ads on Homestuck.com. He has done all kinds of interesting little things to market himself. And so, if Ben... What he does is he listens to long podcasts and live stream recordings and stuff like that while he draws and does, you know, whatever he do. He listens to a lot of shit, and at some point he went down this rabbit hole of listening to a lot of leftist YouTubers, and he came away from it agreeing with them on a lot of things. Now, a lot of people can watch a bunch of political videos and come away agreeing with them, but I think what he also realized is that this community is very profitable. You know, the big people in the lefty community make a fuckload of money, and they get a lot of clout and attention, and they instantly have people on their side. They have allies. They have people who you know, want to work with them, want to talk to them because of their political leanings. And so it is advantageous to go all in on your politics if you can fit in with that crowd and, you know, get some of those advantages. So, on the one hand, you could look at it as Ben is burning away some of his audience who can't stand to hear him talk about this shit. But I think he does it with just barely enough tongue-in-cheek, and with the fact that he's still willing to associate with people like his own brother, who is, you know, a rather radical capitalist, or people like me, you know, who are very outspoken anti-SJWs, you know, people who are, you know, who are edgy, who don't necessarily conform to his beliefs. The fact that he is willing to associate with those people goes a long way to preventing him from seeming too far gone, you know, to the point where people wouldn't respect him anymore in that core audience. But you can also look at the fact that he is more successful than ever, in certain avenues. His Twitter will get way more likes, way more retweets if he makes a political statement that is agreeable to his team, and that will bolster his numbers across the board. So it's not that it's insincere. He does believe the things he's saying, but the reason to go all in on it is that it will breed success. And granted, a part of it is also wanting to, promote the ideals that he believes in and help to bring those to fruition. I think that it's hard for me to take it too seriously coming from him because he's not like making a huge effort, and a lot of what he does is memery. But like, nonetheless, I think that I don't think Ben is somebody who just wants to be lazy and not work. Because it's not that he's not working, It's that the work he does isn't profitable because it's not marketable, because it doesn't really function in the capitalist system. Which is a great reason to be anti-capitalist, If your passion is to run a fucking bizarre Discord game, mostly played by younger people who don't necessarily have the money to contribute to your Patreon, but who are very passionate about the project, and you get a lot of, positive socialization out of it, and, you make a positive impact in people's lives, and they're celebrating the work, but there's no way to profit from it. Then it's like, how does something like this continue to exist if the person who is running it has to, cut away half of their time to go get a regular job? And in Ben's case, the quote-unquote regular job is to do another creative endeavor of writing a comic. Well, the comic's not that profitable, so, like, how do we make this stuff profitable without having to take away from it? How do we advertise, how do we market without having to break away from just doing the things we want to do, and go do something else? Like, for someone like me, if I really want to market my channel to grow, I have to make videos about, like, current relevant topics, and that takes time away from doing the things I really want to do. It's more efficient, though on a smaller scale, to do what Ben is doing, to, throw his hat in with a certain crowd and just tweet some things here and there, promote the ideology on the podcast he happens to appear on, and make connections with people, like, that is, it's just another way of going about it. So that's really what I think Ben's kind of up to, whether he even knows it or not. I think I don't completely disagree with him on everything. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Yang fan myself. I think that the freedom dividend is a great idea. I do think it will free up people like Ben to be able to, concentrate more on their work, possibly not have to. I mean, like, let's say Yang gets elected. Well, you don't need Ben to be on Twitter fucking talking about Yang anymore. That part of the marketing disappears because now it's just the focus on what we actually want to do. So, and then maybe that becomes profitable when you're not worried about meeting a bottom line. You have more time to do other things, which is kind of the idea of socialism. But I really think that, I really think that the idea of universal basic income is just a better functioning version of a total socialist system. But, that's just my opinion. Is Ben completely insufferable now? Yes, absolutely. He is completely insufferable. And particularly because his Twitter antics, he falls into a lot of the tropes of the way that people on his side communicate that are insufferable. And I wish he would stop. But I also completely understand why he's doing it. And yeah, it's not that I'm not going to say I don't begrudge him. I totally begrudge him because it's fucking obnoxious to read that shit on my Twitter timeline. But, as long as Ben and I have an amicable working relationship and I can still understand him and his perspective, and I, even if I find some of the tweet tactics annoying, it doesn't make me think he's like a shit person or anything overnight. I don't have a problem with it. Not a big problem. I have a small, tiny problem, but not a big problem, Well, that was nicer than I anticipated or wanted it to be, but there you go.